It's not impossible to RV or even van camp with cats. It's just you have to be a little more creative in being able to give them their own space.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really have floor space for cat scratchers in the previous one. So like our dining room table had just normal like legs. We wrapped them all in like sisal rope so that way they still had places for that.
Welcome to the Kitty Cat Go Adventure podcast, where we discuss various topics related to cat adventure, travel, training, and enrichment. I'm your host, Emily Hall, cat trainer and cat adventure enthusiast. Join me as I share my own tips and advice and chat with the experts to help and encourage you to give your cat the best life possible. Remember, no adventure is too big or too small. I can't wait to learn, grow, and explore with you. Hello. I'm excited to be chatting and learning more about RV travel with cats in this episode. Today's guest is Elizabeth Comai. Liz is a huge animal lover and lover of the outdoors. She is also a huge advocate for people enriching their pets' lives by living life with their pets to create memories. Liz and her husband include their pets on all their vacations, including tent and RV camping, as well as road trips and hotel stays. They started this adventure lifestyle with their 2 dogs and eventually included their 4 ferrets and now their 2 current cats. They were camping so often and enjoying this simpler lifestyle so much that they finally sold their home in 2019 and became full-time RVers. Hi,
Hey,
Liz.
how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well?
Good. Well, gosh, I guess you are in your RV right now, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. So, before we really get into all the nitty-gritty with RV travel with cats, tell us a little bit about yourself and all your pets, because you have quite a few.
So I've always been an animal lover. I actually was going to school to be a veterinarian, and the only reason I backed off was because I had friends who were veterinarians, and some of the sad stories just wasn't for me anymore. So I actually backed off from that. But with my love for animals, meant I've always had a lot of animals. I actually have probably the least amount of animals I've had in a very long time because we are down to our one dog, border collie named Celine. She's 13 and a half now. And then we have our 2 cats, Thor and Loki. And they were a lucky surprise because prior to them, we actually had decided on no more cats. And we were pretty adamant about that until a little 5-week-old little gray fluff ball come running out of the woods at one of the campgrounds we were at, right up to me, screaming and crying and limping, and was clearly injured. And that was kind of the downfall of no more cats. And now I'm like a psycho cat lady.
It's funny how that happens. I mean, our situation is similar. Well, except for we had 3 cats, and we were like, okay, 3, that's it. And then a stray came, and then another stray came. It's like, you can't say no.
It is hard, isn't it?
It is, especially when, they have some sort of issue. If they're
Yeah.
injured or sick, it's like, oh, I can't leave them.
For sure. Because Thor, we actually found at a campground about 6 months later after Loki. And
Wow.
we just were like, okay. They always say 2 cats are good for each other. So we're going to have a second.
That's true. So how long have you been a full-time RV liver camper?
So full-time, 4 years, because we sold our house November of 2019. We were part-time, full-time, probably for 4 or 5 years before that, because we were camping so much, we ended up getting a seasonal site that was like 15 minutes from our house. And we were like, well, we're going to put the RV there, and this way we can go like every weekend or every other weekend. Well, we went for like a week, and then we never went back home. So basically, this was in Michigan, so we have cold winters up there. So basically, from April through like end of October, we lived there, basically just going home to like mow the lawn and stuff. And after doing that for a couple of years, we're like, we just kind of like doing this. So we just sold the house.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. What a leap of faith and like, I don't know, adventurous thing to do. That's really cool.
Definitely scary at first, but it was totally worth it for us. So
yeah. So I guess Thor and Loki then have always been RV cats.
They have, yes.
Ah, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Thor was maybe 4 to 6 months old when we found him. We don't really know what his prior life was. So
Mm,
maybe he had a home prior for him to him showing up, but we're not sure.
yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell with
Hmm.
strays. Um, so I guess because they've always been living in your RV and never, had to transition to that, you probably didn't have to do a lot of training or anything to get them used to the RV. Um, but do you have any like tips on how someone would acclimate their cat to an RV who might be switching to that lifestyle?
Absolutely. For them, I do say we did acclimate them to the driving part
Oh,
because
okay,
we
yeah.
do a lot of traveling, because whether we're traveling in the RV, we do a lot of road trips where we just go stay in hotels. We actually just took up tent camping and we've been doing that, so we're in the car a lot.
Mhm.
So one of the big things that we started with right out of the gate, like Loki was 5 weeks old and like 2 days later, was car rides, from just
Mm.
sitting in the car doing nothing to eventually just going around the block. And now I have two cats who literally will just like sleep on a 13-hour trip. Like, they're just totally fine with it now. So that's something that was super important for that part of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Getting them used to collars and harnesses like right out of the gate, as young as they are. Um, if you have an older cat, it might take a little bit more time, but I think with slow introductions and using like positive reinforcement, I think most cats can learn to tolerate a collar and a harness. And I think a lot of times with RVing, people are usually in and out a lot.
Mhm.
An RV is a lot smaller, so I think the chance of a cat escaping, there's a little more chances of that. So
Yeah.
I always like keeping collars on our boys just for like the extra safety aspect.
Sure. Do you also keep trackers on them?
I do, yes. So they're both microchipped for safety. They have ID tags that actually say, I'm an RV cat. So this way, if they're near a neighborhood, someone's like, they should hopefully figure out that they're at a campground somewhere,
Mhm.
as well as they do wear GPS trackers.
Very cool. Covering all the bases.
Yep. I'm a paranoid, like, my husband calls me a helicopter mom when it comes to them. So just
I
everything to
understand.
protect them.
Yeah, I think probably most of us watching or listening can relate to that.
Oh,
So
yeah, I'm sure.
yeah. So were you mentioned that you had to acclimate them to riding in the car. Was that a struggle or did they take to it pretty quickly?
Loki took to it very, very well. Again, he was just 5 weeks old and he was just curious. Even to this day, he just likes looking out the window. Eventually, he'll fall asleep. Thor was a little slower. So we had to do shorter car rides from the beginning, and we couldn't just jump into anything long, because
Mhm.
we could tell he was a little bit stressed at the beginning. But after a while, he just was like, okay, this is what we do. I'm just going to sleep it off.
Yeah. Um Well, that's great that they, like, got to the other side of that because I know
Mhm.
car travel can be a real barrier for some people when it comes to taking their cats
Oh,
out
yes.
because especially if it's a cat who has lived, like, a home life, like a
Hmm.
regular home life for so long and, um, car rides only happen to go to the vet or something, so
Yeah.
I know that that can be a real, sometimes stressful training process.
For sure. Before we actually had Thor and Loki, our previous cat, who's unfortunately not with us anymore, Midnight, he was a house cat before this lifestyle. So it was a huge adjustment moving from home life to the RV. It also was extra hard because he actually went blind like right at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So there was a struggle with that. And he was the type of cat that we weren't in a car unless we were going to the vet.
Yeah.
So we tried really hard. I think he was 17 when we started this with him.
Wow.
So the car ride thing never got to be where it was like amazing,
Mhm.
but it got to be where it was like, okay, I'm gonna probably cry here and there, but I'm gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that was an improvement, at least.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about your RV. What kind of RV are you in? Is it a pull behind, motorhome, camper van? What kind of RV do you got?
So our current RV is actually a 36 foot fifth wheel, so it is a pull behind. When we started, we actually started in the it was a pull behind travel trailer that we actually just bought only for camping. So it was much smaller. It was like 26 feet 9 inches, and that had no slides. And if you're not familiar with an RV, a slide can make all the difference in living space. And it was fine for a while. And honestly, the big reason we actually upgraded to this one was a combination of my previous dog was getting much older and was having issues with mobility inside the small space. And we had that one when we found the cats. And the previous cat wasn't a super, he was 17. He basically slept all day. And then when we got these two after he had passed away, they were kittens. They needed room and space. So we're like, okay, we're going to probably have to make this jump to something bigger. So with this, we were actually able to make more accommodations for them where they have more room. So you can actually see I have a full-size cat tree in the corner, albeit we had to make accommodations in our part. So I had a full-size couch back there that had to come out for something smaller so we could get the cat tree there, but it was worth it.
Yeah, so that kind of leads into one of my other questions is like your setup.
Mhm.
So, I mean, cats, like you mentioned the cat tree, they need, the vertical space, the cat trees, the
Mhm.
beds, the hidey holes, and RVs and campers, like you mentioned, can, be limited in
Mhm.
space. So, how have you accommodated all of the things for the cats and your dog too?
So this one's been easier just because it is much bigger than our other one. So we did have to take out a full-size couch, got a smaller couch so we could put the cat tree in. We do have much more floor space, so I do have like cat scratchers and stuff here and there. I know the big question a lot of people ask is where the heck is the litter box?
Yeah, the litter boxes.
I've always been big on the litter box not being in the way. So in this one, we actually have a kitchen island. So what my husband did was it has two doors for the cabinet underneath. He took out the shelf that was underneath there, and then he took off one of the two doors. We put a look-alike door on it. We wanted to save the other door in case we ever wanted to put it back to normal. And he basically put like a cat door on that cabinet so they can get underneath to the litter box so it's out of the way. But
Oh.
this RV's been a lot easier. The previous RV was a little tricky. It's not impossible to RV or even van camp with cats. It's just you have to be a little more creative in being able to give them their own space.
Mhm.
So we didn't really have floor space for cat scratchers in the previous one. So like our dining room table had just normal like legs. We wrapped them all in like sisal rope so that way they still had places for that. I had a couple like the wall mounted cat scratchers because I was able to put those a little bit out of the way.
Yeah.
But like every nook and cranny we could find, I would basically like get one of those like either hidey beds or something that's a hidey thing that we could shove in the corner, or some things that we mounted on the walls and stuff like that. So they could still have their space, even though it was like a much smaller space as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, that's so creative, like wrapping the table legs with sizzle.
Mhm.
What a genius idea.
Yeah, they definitely liked it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and, um, taking advantage of the vertical space. I
Mhm.
I know even in, like, a regular home, I think and people who live in maybe small apartments and stuff, they think, "Oh, I don't have space for a big cat tree
Mhm.
or, all these beds or whatever," but if you instead of thinking of on a horizontal plane, start thinking on a vertical plane, and you have a lot more space.
Yep, and they definitely love that vertical plane because they're all about the climbing. So it definitely works out in everyone's favor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Where did you have the litter box in your previous camper? How did you handle that?
So that one, a lot of campers come with like under bed storage. So usually they'll
Mm.
be on like these like struts where you can push it up and then have storage underneath there. So we basically took off one of the three panels that surrounded it. Well, not we, my husband. We saved that one, put another panel on it, and again, we just did like a little cat door underneath there. And then we put like a motion censored light. So when they'd go in there, the light would actually pop on for them. And it was easy for me to get to change. It was out of the way. One of the big reasons I have to have it out of the way is we've always had dogs, and
Mhm.
dogs really like the litter box. So I always have to be creative in finding somewhere I can put the litter box that the cats can get to it. I can get to it for cleaning, but the dogs cannot.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I've had to get creative just in my regular home on
Yeah.
how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned the car travel. So I guess
Mhm.
if your trailer is a pull behind,
Mhm.
then they're not in the trailer like when
No.
you're driving, they're in your truck or car or whatever.
Yep. They are. I would never, I think I've heard that it's legal to put animals in a fifth wheel pull behind, but I would never do it. I actually rode in our travel trailer one time for like a 2-minute drive. We were camping. We had to move because of a really bad storm that was coming in on one of the Great Lakes in Michigan. And for like that 2 minute drive for like a 5 miles per hour, it was the most horrific thing like ever just being inside there. So I don't understand how people could do that, because I have heard people just say, no, my cat's fine. We're just going to leave him back there. And I'm just like, are they though? Like, it is a
Ugh,
pretty, they don't have the greatest suspension. Like motorhomes,
yeah.
they're built for driving. So the suspension's a little different, but like the pull behinds, they bounce.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I guess I just always assumed it would be a smooth ride like a car, you
Oh,
know?
for sure.
Well, that's good to know. Don't leave your pets in a pull-behind trailer. I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway. I can't imagine, like, having them in a space where I can't access or see them or know what's happening on the road. That's nerve-wracking. So,
Agreed.
yes. All right. So besides the space struggle, were there other struggles that maybe came up along the way after you started living in an RV with your pets that you weren't prepared for or hadn't thought about before you started?
I'd say the only thing I wasn't super prepared for right out of the gate was the importance of being able to monitor temperatures.
Mm,
So that was something an RV is not, it doesn't matter how well it's insulated. They have some that are made for 4 season, but no matter how well it's made, it's never going to be as insulated as a home.
yeah.
So if you were to lose power, or like say it's a hot day and your AC kicks out, that temperature is going to climb a lot faster than a house would. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep an eye on that. And since then, I have ways of keeping eyes on all that stuff now.
Yeah, so what are those ways? How would someone keep an eye on that, and what do you do if your AC goes out or your heat goes out?
So there's a couple different brands of temperature monitors. We've been using Waggle is the brand, probably for 7 years now, and I've been very happy with them. It's just like a little unit that just you plug in somewhere in your RV, and it monitors the temperature. They also have one that monitors the humidity as well if you're worried about that. But basically, you get to decide what temperature like you find is dangerous, both the low end and the high end. So if you're camping in cold weather and you're worried about the heat not working, you can say, I want it to notify me if we drop below 60 degrees.
Mhm.
So we pick that range, and I think mine is like 65 to 70 degrees. And it can text up to 10 different phone numbers
Oh,
and
wow.
10 different emails. So I have both me and my husband listed on there. And that way, if something, the temperature goes awry, we both get notified. It also notifies if we lose power. So if we lose power on a hot day, it will
Mm,
notify us that before the temperature climbs. So then we know there's an issue. And
mhm.
we actually, yesterday, we actually did lose power. We don't lose power very often, but a lot of people are like, well, why do you put your high temperature danger at 70 degrees? Well, I normally try to keep it at 69 in here. And the reason I do that is if I were to put it at like 78, where you actually start getting maybe a little dangerous, that means you have less time to get back to your RV if there is an issue before it gets actually to a dangerous thing. So if I set it
Mm,
70, I'm like, okay, it went up a little bit. Let's keep a close eye on it. And if I can see it slowly climbing, I'm like, all right, yeah, we got to get home, because there's obviously going to be some type of issue, and, we can fix it.
that's a good tip. I, hadn't thought of that, but yeah, setting your alerts a lot lower than is really dangerous so you can deal with the problem. Because yeah, I mean, depending on how far you're away you are from your RV, if your, power goes out or your AC goes out and it's already 78 in there, it won't be long before it's 90 degrees in there or something.
For sure.
Yeah, so if that situation happens, do you then just have to, like, take the cats out of the RV, or do you have fans, or how can you manage that kind of situation to keep it safe?
So we actually now have a generator. So if we
Oh.
were to lose power, we always keep the generator as well as extra gas for it on hand. So we can just come home, turn that on, and basically plug, instead of being plugged into the electrical pedestal, we just plug into the generator. And our current unit has two AC units. On our generator, we can only run one. But with closing our bedroom off, it is more than fine of lowering the temperature. If something were to happen and say the generator didn't work as a worst case backup, everybody would go into the car or the truck, and we would just run the AC in there as a last minute backup.
Yeah, that's definitely, I would say, a benefit of having a pull-behind camper.
Mhm.
So you do have a car that you can go to, because I guess motorhomes, well, I guess a lot of people pull their car behind their motorhomes too, so they have a vehicle, but, um, yeah, having that vehicle, that's a reason I wouldn't have originally thought of wanting to make sure you have an extra vehicle besides your RV.
Good backup.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so that kind of leads me into my next question about leaving the cats behind and the dog. So if you and your husband go somewhere where the animals can't go
Mhm.
and you leave them behind, are there any other precautions that you take besides the temperature monitoring?
Yep. I actually have two iPads, and a lot of people don't know there is a free app called Presence, and you can download it on your iPad and I think any other type of tablet if you have a camera on it, and you download it on your phone. And basically, what it allows you to do is you can set up that tablet and you can actually see the camera, like through what the camera would see on the tablet through your phone when you're away. So I
Oh,
as a backup with our two things, and then I also just have like a regular camera. So this way I can check in on them and just make sure they're okay.
yeah. That's cool. So it's called Presence, you said?
Yep. Yep, it's a pretty cool thing because I know not everybody Waggle and a lot of the temperature monitors do come with a monthly fee on top of being a little on the pricey side, depending on which brand you go with. So if
Yeah.
you happen to have tablets, or even if you just have an extra phone at home, or say you and your husband or spouse or friend are going out, one of them could just leave your phone set up if you can kind of get a good angle.
Mhm.
I've told other people I've recommended even if you put like just a regular digital thermometer in front of it so you can kind of see it, and then you can just kind of check the camera if you can't go like the Waggle route. It's a just another way to do it in the cheaper variety.
Yeah. Creative ways to save money.
Yep.
Hey, all you cat adventuring podcast listeners. I've got three numbers for you: 17, 70, and 1. 17, the number of cat friendly adventure spots around your neighborhood to explore with your kitty. 70, that's just how many cat friendly chains are out there just waiting for you and your cat to visit. Whether you're just out for the day and want to bring your best adventure buddy, or you and your cat are traveling and need a safe haven, these places have you both covered. 1. There's only one incredible and loving relationship like what you have with your cat. It's as unique as anything, and here at Kitty Cat Go, I believe it should be nurtured. Visit kittycatgo.com/guide and sign up today to get all those cat-friendly locations so you and your kitty can get up and go. All right, back to the show. What other must-have gear items and accessories would you say you have for RV travel or even tent camping? Because I know you guys do that too.
Mhm. Yeah, I say I don't really have anything specific RV wise. I mean, our RV is basically a home, so we have all like the general cat trees, cat scratchers. Their adventure gear has gotten a little out of control because I keep buying things, especially now that we do the tent camping. So part of the tent camping, and actually, I guess for the RV, I do have like a little catio. So when we're doing the RV and we take the RV places, the catio, it's portable. It's got made of like plastic. It's like a PVC type thing, and then it has an outdoor screen thing. But that one has a couple layers. It's a little complicated to put together and take apart, so I don't take that tent camping.
Hmm.
But that's been great for RV travel because I don't want them to be just outside cats.
Mhm.
And there's not always, I don't always have them on the leash with me outside. But if we're just sitting outside and just hanging out, they can kind of come out there and chill inside the catio. And for tent camping, I have it's like a portable playpen. So it's like a circular thing that basically folds flat. So usually when we're tent camping, we don't have as much space, obviously, as what the RV would hold. So I try to keep things limited on space. So it's a little smaller for a hangout for them, but it's somewhere that if we're setting up the tent or taking down the tent, it's somewhere I can put them that I know they'll be safe. Because most of the time I have them on a long line. They've gotten to the point where they're comfortable and they're safe being on a long line while tent camping or RV camping. But if I don't have eyes on them, it just brings me extra peace of mind if they're like in an enclosed space as a just in case. Because there's always the what if, especially at campgrounds. I've ran into a lot of off leash dogs.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, I haven't since doing like tent camping with the cats, but we've been tent camping forever, and we've had a lot of them like come up to our dogs and stuff like that. So that's always in the back of my mind of just being extra careful, because that obviously could be disastrous.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Off leash dogs are kind of a problem everywhere.
Definitely.
Yeah. So going back to the long line question, you mentioned that they are now comfortable being on the long line. So what would you say makes a cat ready or not ready to be on a longer line leash?
So obviously being really comfortable wearing a harness is obviously the very important, because you don't want a cat trying to get away. And I started out with shorter leashes and kept them like around me and stuff, but when they got to the point where I could tell that they're pretty chill. They know like the whole camping thing with us, that like, okay, we're just going to be hanging out here. I'm going to smell around. And I have anywhere from a 15 to I think 25-foot line for each of them. And they're just to the point where they're not going to like dart to get to the end of the thing.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of training to where they know that I call them their adventure backpacks, but they each have their own backpack,
That's so
is a
cute.
safe space for them. So they know if they get scared, I keep that out. If they're on the long line, I always keep that playpen I talked about.
Mhm.
It has like an opening on the front where I'll leave that open. They know that's a safe spot. And usually I'll leave the part of our tent open. So if they do get scared, they know that they can go to one of those things and they're not like freaking out and just like running off into the woods. Because while I would like to think their harnesses are like amazingly perfect, I don't think any cat harness is like 100%, escape proof. So,
Yeah.
if they were still to the point where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm still so scared that I'm going to just run to the end of the leash, I probably would keep them on the shorter lines next to us. But they're super comfortable and just kind of like, okay, I'm kind of just going to go chill in the tent now. And not much freaks them out as much as like when we first started.
Yeah, I love that, setting up those safe spaces, because I know those of us who hike and go, various places with our cats, having a backpack carrier is pretty much essential, or some space, a stroller carrier, whatever, where your cat can go to when they're scared or get startled by something. And so making sure they have those spaces even when they're stationary at a campground is
Mhm.
so important.
For sure.
Yeah. Um Question from a viewer: what brand of harness are you using?
So we are currently using the Pet Safe Come With Me kitty harnesses.
Okay.
We have used a lot of different harnesses, and I think this has been my favorite. I like the rabbit goo. It fit Loki better than it fit Thor, and I think something that a lot of people don't think about is harnesses aren't just like cookie cutter. You can get this harness for any cat. Cats, like humans, they're built differently. So the same harness might not fit as well. So just because someone's like, this harness is great, it might not be great for your cat. So
Right.
this is where trying them out and trying to see what works for your cat. One of the reasons it really didn't work for our Thor is he's a little bit more of a sensitive cat than Loki. So the rabbit goo harness has a lot more to it,
Mhm.
and it took a long time to get him to the point where he wasn't just flopping.
Mm.
No matter how much like positive reinforcement we did with it, it just was always this kind of like, I'm not really super okay with this.
Yeah.
When we switched to the Come With Me kitty harness, which is basically just thinner straps, like it was like night and day. He knows now, oh, harness, I get treats. It's amazing, just because I feel like he just felt too restricted with the other harness. So
Right.
something to definitely keep in mind when you are harness shopping. Just because someone online or somewhere else says this harness is amazing doesn't mean it will work for your cat, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really great reminder, because I mean, one of the things that I hear more often than not, like when I'm just out with my cats and people
Mhm.
see, "Oh, you have a cat on a leash. That's so cool." I tried putting a harness on my cat once and it didn't work. And I'm always like, "You tried it once?" Like, that's not how it works. One, you have to train them, and two, it might have been the harness.
Mhm.
Like you just explained, had such a good example of how one harness worked great for one cat, but even after training, your other cat was still not comfortable in it. And so that's a good reminder for everyone. Like if you're struggling with the harness process and your cat just doesn't seem to be acclimating or comfortable or accepting of the harness, you might just need to try a different style.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Um, so another, I guess, struggle might not be the right word, but I'm going to use that word because it's all I can think of at the moment. Another struggle that I know exists for people who camp and live in RVs full time or who travel a lot is having a vet, right? Because you're not like stationary all the time. So you might not have that vet, that you've seen for years and years and know your pets. So how do you handle if your pets have to see a vet when you're, you know, traveling in your RV?
So I'm really obsessive and I like to have like all of their stuff on file. Like I know like a couple of the vets we've seen, you can actually just get they have like their own apps and stuff where you can like
Mhm.
actually get all that information and stuff. But I also like to have hard copies with me. So anytime I go to the vet, I basically tell them I want a printout of everything that's happened. So each of the animals has like their own little binder. So if I'm going to the next vet somewhere else, I can be like, okay, this is everything on Loki I have here, and this is everything up to this point. Um, it can be a struggle because you don't get that necessarily comfort level that you would say if you have the same vet all the time.
Mhm.
For instance, with Loki, um, our previous cat had seen vets elsewhere. So, and when we first got to where we were when we found Loki, it was the first time going to that vet, and I had a pretty horrible experience. Just the way the specific vet we saw felt the need to kind of manhandle him at a 5 week
Mhm.
old kitten when they were first seeing him. So, I mean, I spoke up and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's necessary, but it's something that I guess it's always kind of a struggle because that's one thing I do miss is having that like one-on-one relationship where you go to the vet and they're like, "Oh, hey, it's Loki. How you guys
Mhm.
been?" So that part's kind of a bummer. But at least for the medical side of it, I try to keep everything on file so I kind of know everything that's going on and I don't miss anything.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times, if you're seeing the same vets, you get those reminders. Hey, Loki's due for rabies or whatever, there. If you're not going to the same vets, you may not get those reminders. So it's good to kind of have some way that you can keep track of all that stuff yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great tip, and I like that you have hard copies too. I know in this day and age, so many of us, I mean, me included, rely so heavily on digital things.
Mm.
But that's it's not foolproof, right? Those things can disappear or you accidentally delete a folder or whatever. So having that backup hard copy, I think is so important.
Yeah, I have like they make these like waterproof little pocket things, and I have their vaccination records, just like the one sheet that says they're up to date on like their rabies and all their stuff for all of the animals, folded up, and I basically keep a copy in every single one of our vehicles. Copy inside the RV, just easy that I can get to. I have one. We have a fire safe in here, just for all like the really important stuff. I keep copies in there, and then like in their adventure backpacks, I always keep a set there. So this way, I'm like maybe I'm being overly paranoid, but like if something happens and someone needs to, yes, my cat has the rabies vaccines and everything else. So don't
Yeah.
worry, because some campgrounds, I haven't been to a campground that actually requires any of that yet, but I have read that there are some campgrounds that require proof of that. So it's nice having that. I can just be like, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think that's really a situation where the better safe than sorry motto comes
Yeah.
in. For anyone, whether you're traveling in an RV with your cat or just living a regular home life, having copies of all of those things, especially if you go out and adventure with your cat, having them in your car at least so that way, your cat is injured or bites someone or gets bitten or, something when you're out on an adventure, you have all of that information right there with you already. What other tips or advice you have? We've covered a lot of ground, but is there anything that I missed or that you think you know you want to share with everybody?
Biggest thing is patience. If you're looking to start RVing or tent camping or anything, cats sometimes need a little more time than others. And I've seen a lot of people that, I tried RVing with my cat. It was horrible. And it was because the cat's never seen the RV in their life. They basically got booted into the RV. And of course, it's going to be a very stressful situation. So if
Mhm.
it's something you're looking to start doing in the future, take your cat to the RV, even if it's just for a couple minutes, feed them a meal there, just play a game with them, do something that's like fun. So they're like, okay, this is a positive thing. Everything's okay. and you can build up to, okay, now we'll maybe spend an hour in there. Just
Mm-hmm.
if you're going on vacation, I saw someone online was like, my cat's having surgery. I'm going to bring them in the RV, you know, and it didn't go very well. You
Yeah.
know, obviously there may be circumstances where you don't have a choice and kind of have to rush it. But if you have the opportunity to take it at a slow pace, which I think is important with any animal, whether it's like the harness training or for car rides, or if you're having to move into an RV, taking it slow so they have that time to actually make the positive association. So it's not just this big scary, I have no idea where I am or what this is. It's just going to make for an overall better experience for the cat and everyone involved.
Yeah. That's a great reminder because, I mean, even for those of us who might not RV travel, but who go to parks or stores and all that with our cat, there's always that acclimation process, right? The first time you go to a new place,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's always exceptions, obviously, but most cats are going to be a little nervous or, scared the first time they go somewhere new. And an RV is basically just a new place, right? It may be your home, but to a cat, it's a new place and they need to be acclimated. And um, I imagine in the acclimation process, you could kind of use even a backpack or carrier the same way you would when you're outside, like you mentioned, having them at the campsite, having them in
Mm-hmm.
the RV. So if your cat, gets a little nervous, they can go into their backpack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because when we did the tent camping, we actually didn't get an opportunity to do a super great acclimating process with the tent. Um, we've been doing so much with them. I wasn't super concerned because we've taken so many road trips with them and have stayed in like random hotels now, like all the
Mhm.
time, to where they're just like, okay, this is new, but it's fine. Eventually, cats can learn to generalize that, okay, we're with our
Yeah.
people, I got my things, I have my backpack, I got my bed that smells like home. Eventually you can get to the point, if you're doing it enough, that it's not as scary. But for our tent we didn't acclimate, but we did have the backpack, we did have like their own beds that came from home, that they know their smells on it, this is theirs, they know it's safe. So I mean, they took to it like, they're like, okay, we're just going to bed in the tent, it's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I've got a few questions coming in. What kind of tent do you use?
So we first tried the type of tent that actually goes in the bed of a pickup truck. Um, Thought it would be a really cool idea. It was actually a pretty cool tent. I liked because we were up off the ground. That was the cat's first time tent camping, and it made me feel a little better because the tent was like in between the walls of the bed of the truck. So my biggest worry with tent camping is cats have nails.
Yeah.
Are they going to try to get out? And it kind of made me feel a little better because it felt solid on the side. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, probably not going to try. Um, we ended up not really liking that tent. I think the brand was Napier, only because we're the type of people, when we go camping, we like to go do things a lot. If you're going somewhere and you're big on, I'm going to stay at the campsite and just kind of chill, have a fire, maybe walk around a lot, a like truck bed tent is pretty amazing. We like to leave a lot, and you can't leave the tent up when you go to leave. So every time
Mm,
I go to leave, it had to kind of pop it down and put everything out of it, and then at night put it back up. And it was not worth it, for just because of what we do. We like to go on trails and stuff that aren't just at the campground. So it
yeah.
was a little more work than what it was worth. This last time we got, I think it's called a Coleman. Oh my goodness. Coleman, like, I can't remember the name. Sundome or something like that. It's a dark room technology, which was nice because it was like super dark, like you can't see sunshine in. But
Hmm.
the reason we really liked it is it has the main tent, and on the front of the tent it actually has like its own built-in like screen room,
Hmm.
and you can separate them or you can leave the middle closed. What I liked about it that we used for the first couple nights with them was, in the middle of the night, if you have to go to the bathroom, the big worry is the
Yeah.
cat going to try darting? It's dark. It's, what are you going to do? So what was nice about that the first couple nights, as we were testing the tent camping thing on the ground with them, was you could get up, you could leave that first portion of the tent, make sure they were in that other part of the tent, you could zip them up in it, then you can open the actual outside part, and it kind of had that safety barrier, so you knew that nobody was going to like accidentally escape. So that's
Yeah.
probably my favorite tent that I think we're going to stick with with tent camping with the cats, just for that extra safety barrier.
Yeah, that is a nice feature. It gives you that extra peace of mind when you have to leave the tent. Also, what type or brand of cat backpack do you recommend?
I actually have 2 different ones, and it's silly why I have 2 different brands. I'm very color coordinated when it comes to my pet's gear. So Loki wears everything green, his collars, harnesses, leashes. So I wanted a green backpack. Thor, everything is blue, and I wanted a blue one. I couldn't find a brand that had both. So Thor actually has the Pet Tommy one, I think it is. Hold on. No, Loki has the Pets Fit one, and then I have the Pet Tommy one for Thor. And I like both of them. I think with anything, they both have pros and cons. Loki's is nice because the front part I can roll up.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to chill in there and kind of just because I haven't got to the point where either of them are riding on the backpacks yet, but I can just roll up the front part and Loki just kind of just sits in there and sticks his head out. Thor's not big in doing that, which works because the Patami one, like the whole front panel kind of hangs weird. So if you want that front panel down, it's a little awkward. But the Pet Tommy one, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, is roomier than the Pets Fit. So if you have a larger cat, I would definitely go with the Pet Tommy one over the Pets Fit because it's just a little bit on the roomier side. And the Pet Tommy one is also nice if you have a cat that you're worried about pushing the zippers apart, because they were very clever in that, like the 2 zippers that go together. Yep, they have the little clips there, and it was very smart thinking. So definitely pros and cons to both different kind of brands.
Yeah, I actually have both of those backpacks too. So I do really like the buckle feature the Petami one has on the zippers. That's super nice.
It is very clever.
Yeah. All right. Well, Liz, I mean, this has been amazing. I have always been curious about RV travel. My husband and I are tent campers. We've never really done the RV thing. But if we ever decide to, we always talk about it, and dream like, oh, one day we'll have a camper or an RV. I'll be ready. I'll be ready for that RV life with my 7 cats and my dog and my sugar gliders.
Hey, it's possible. When we first started with the smaller travel trailer, I had the ferrets, 4 ferrets, 2 dogs, the 1 cat, and then I had some parrots for a little while as well. So
wow, all in your smaller camper too.
Yes, we had to do a lot of remodeling.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. And I bet you had to get really creative about like storage because you've got your own stuff and then all the stuff for all of those animals.
Yeah, my husband joked for a long time that the pets had more storage space than we did, which was probably accurate, but they have their things, they have needs.
Right? That's definitely, I think I've heard that as like a running joke for so many people. I know when we travel with the cats, because usually when we go on vacation, we always pick a place that's pet friendly so we can bring at least one of our cats. And so we always have at least one cat traveling with us. And we always joke that their suitcase is bigger than ours. They have more stuff than we do.
Yep, same. I know we usually take like a little backpack for us, and I've got like this gigantic duffel bag just for the cat stuff, just so they have all their stuff.
Yeah, man.
Totally relatable.
Priorities.
Got to make sure they're comfortable and have everything that's going to keep them happy while you're away.
Yes, I'll go without, but my cat is not going without.
Yep, definitely agree with that.
Liz, where can people find you online?
So we are on like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, basically all of the places at Pause to Journey, where we like to share both videos and photos of kind of all the adventures we do, just so people can see that cats aren't just meant to be couch potatoes. They can do adventures just like doggies as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, Liz, thank you again so much for sharing all your knowledge. This was really great. I look forward to seeing more of Loki and Thor's travels. Are you enjoying the Kitty Cat Go Adventure podcast? Let me know by leaving a review. This will help others to find it and hopefully be inspired to get out there, try new things, and go new places with their cat. What questions do you have about adventuring with cats? Or maybe you'd just like to chat with me about what you learned in this episode. Find me on Instagram at kittycatgoadventures. You can also screenshot this episode and tag me in your stories so I can see who is listening. I'd love to continue the conversation with you, so find me on Instagram or join our Facebook group, Kitty Cat Go Adventure Team, so you can connect with a whole community of fellow cat adventurers. And as always, you can find the show notes, including all links and resources discussed in this episode at kittycatgo.com/podcast. Until next time, happy adventuring.